has misused the technology and has created other issues that are not pertaining to the community.
She has proceeded very quickly because nowadays everybody has a phone. Everything is just computerized. So I believe we are going to be very far because if you can see even the age, everybody knows how to use a phone.
There is a paradigm shift in the technology, and the technology is really rising. So the next 10 years we expect more to come, and the technology now is more of developing us as individuals, teenagers.
Technology is something that's growing in Kenya, especially Kenya, as we can see, vitu mingi size and in a technical way, najua, due to maybe advancement and what we acquire from the other countries or the outside Africa. Yeah. So in 10 years to come, I think technology will overcome everything. Like, let's start with something like human power, like labor. Technology is overcoming it, and it's reduced the cost of labor. Yeah, unajua, if you work on technology and the other side on labor, it's a bit costly. So when we focused on technology only, it's a bit reducing cost.
Technology is a good thing. There have been quite major innovations in technology. So I think in the next 10 years, we'll have major development in so many sectors of the economy, like even in our industries, communication sectors, and even through how we do our things, because of the innovations that are being done each and every day in the world of technology. But there are also disadvantages that come along with technology, and especially like the cases of cyberbullying, whereby we have people spending most of their time in using technology, engaging in games that are related to technology. So there are various disadvantages, but it's a good thing. I think we just need to take care as we use it.
Welcome to yet another segment on Code 254. My name is Joanne Murugi. Cancer is ranked third as a killer disease after infectious diseases and cardiovascular diseases. But is the public aware of the risks associated with this deadly disease? We hit the streets of Nairobi to find out.
I don't think the government has taken the war against cancer seriously. And I wanted to allow me to compare it to the HIV awareness, which used to be a very serious problem in the 80s and in the 90s. But since the government took it seriously, it has really been neutralized, and people are not really suffering from it because they know how to avoid being infected, they know how to treat it, even though there is no cure, but they know how to handle themselves when they are sick with HIV. But when coming to cancer, it's a very serious disease. Personally, I've been hit by the cancer story because my mother-in-law died of cancer, and I was closer to her, and I could see it was serious, but it was very clear that there was no solution at all. There was no cure, there was no even treatment. What we used to carry from Kenyatta was actually just a plastic bag full of painkillers. But at the end of the day, we were being told by the doctors that this lady will die soon.
I think so, but I still feel like it's still limited in the interior areas. I don't think guys are that aware of the way things are going on. I don't feel like, okay, I feel like it's only to a chosen few, because you still find people are dying not knowing that they have it. People don't know that you can actually go and get tested because they still feel like it's a bit too expensive. And I think with the way we need to like work on our SDGs on making, on health and everything, that's something that should be done. Like, it's not even, we shouldn't be pleading the government or even we ourselves, the people who know, we should be doing that for ourselves and making people know that cancer is real and they can actually go get tested and everything should move.
Mostly kwa village kabisa huko ndani ndani utapata kuna watu wengi ambao bado hawajui kuna cancer kwa hii country. Until wapatwe na cancer, waende hospitali wapatwe na cancer, ndio watakuwa wanajua kumbe hii ugonjwa ina exist.
I think they have created awareness about it, but they're not doing anything about it. People are still living in the same lifestyle as they were.
We have not done enough. Yeah, you see, the awareness we are creating nowadays, mostly on towns, on urban centers, but they are back in local areas. We don't reach those people. Yeah, you get that when somebody has cancer in the urban, say rural areas, they need to come to towns. Yeah, it's when they get to know about these things, the processes, and how they can help themselves towards that. So creating awareness, we should do it more, even in rural areas.
Government has not yet improved the facilities in the hospitals, even the doctors. If you find somebody sick, we just have to drive him or her to India. So which means we don't have the doctors, enough doctors, and also awareness, it has not been created fully.
Kila msi anajua kuhusu kansa sahi, na kila mtu anajua hizi message za kwenda kuscreeniwa cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, hizo zote hakuna mtu ajui, sidhani kama kuna mtu ajui.
People have not been sensitized much about the cancer awareness because we still need more sensitization of the cancer, at least to enlighten more other people so that they can also know what to do about cancer. The government has not done well in notifying, even giving the people the awareness of the cancer, but we need more so that other people, even those who are in the ground, to know more about the cancer.
I do believe that there is enough cancer awareness. For instance, where I used to work in an NGO, and I will see our employers bring people who had enough knowledge on cancer, and they would be taken through the cancer awareness. So I believe the country that has done enough cancer awareness for now, because also when you go to the hospitals, you find the pamphlets on the cancer. So yeah, I believe that they have done enough cancer awareness.
I don't think there's enough awareness about cancer in Kenya, but with time, when the infrastructure is put in place and the mechanisms for making the awareness will be there, people will get to know more about cancer, and yeah, there will be systems to tell people how to deal with such cases.
In fact, to people who are having hospitals, it has turned into a business. That's what they are doing. When they see someone sick with cancer, they know that business has come in, and that's all they want to do about it. They don't tell us, they don't even talk to those people who are already sick on how they can go and talk to others who are already sick but are not aware. So there is no awareness being done, and the government has really let us down on the fight against cancer.
Many Kenyans can attest to having witnessed or participated in many medically related fundraisers. We seek to find out just how many Kenyans have felt the pinch of the high cost of medical attention in Kenya.
As much as we are talking about health care being one of the big four agenda, ni Wakenya wengi sana wa access hizi dawa, wa access matibabu, na wako tu ukitembea mitaani unapata ni wagonjwa, wengine TB, hata hizi coronavirus. The president should come to the rescue, make sure that health care is affordable to many Kenyans who are living with things like cancer, tupate pahali pa kufanyia vitu kama check up, vitu kama Kenya wengi sana ni 80% of Kenyans wanakoa. President afanye maneno basi.
Sisi hata ukienda hospitali unaweza fika huko unapata unaandikiwa madawa uende kwa chemist nje. So hapo hata pia Uhuru anafaa angalie upande wa wananchi. Pia tuangalie anaangalia hiyo masirai ya hospitali.
In order to now equalize both the standards, the high and the low standards of people, I think they should provide affordable accesses to the healthcare and stuff.
Kenya wanafanya ni kulevelize tu hizo at least kuwe better. Tuseme kama ni consultancy, watry kuloa hizo services. At least hadi mwananchi wa kawaida siku tu akienda kwa chemist na buy dawa, because anajua akienda hosi treatment haitakuwa poa yet ni expensive.
Currently the government is doing something about that, because tunajua about universal health cover, which in some counties like Nyeri washaanza kuitumia, and of course tunajua about free maternity health, but I think there's more that the government should do. Wanafaa si wapay to certain counties kwa sababu pengine someone in Nyeri would afford the health care there, but maybe they wouldn't need the cover. So I feel wanafaa like wa give the cover to much more counties.
Kitu ya kwanza wanafaa wa make sure madrugs zinakuwa at all centers za clinic, yani nikienda kwa clinic yenye iko Kibera, nikienda kwa clinic yenye iko hapa Lang'ata, nafaa kupata the same type of drugs na cheki such a way that kama mimi naishi ghetto, nikienda kutafuta drug fulani kwa clinic naweza access. So wanafaa tu yani wa equalize resources zote in such a way the common raia anaweza zi access rahisi.
Kwa hospitali mimbi unapata hakuna madawa. Kama ni x-ray unataka kupigwa x-ray, unaweza hata uende x-ray ni ya emergency, lakini unaenda unapatiwa appointment ya kurudi. Lakini sana sana unaona kama ni hawa wenye wanasimamia mambo ya afya kwa hiyo hospitali, unapata hata honga wanapokea kwa raia. So ukimwona kando, hata hiyo appointment utapatiwa haraka na hiyo x-ray itakuwa kwa hiyo hospitali. Mi kwa maoni yangu naona hivi, kama ni mambo ya health irudishwe kwa national government.
Today the economy of Kenya in terms of health has actually gone very high as expected in some 30 years ago. Why? Because the government of Kenya does not even believe on themselves. If somebody is sick today, this guy will be transferred to maybe London or China for proper health care. Why can't this government of Kenya actually improve the social amenities like health, hospitals, good hospitals, so that this huge amount of money that you are wasting to take to China or wherever, that we can just do it within Kenya and everybody should actually get proper health care.
Duara twazunguka waya tudondoke, usipende kutumia kuliko kutafuta, bila pesa hata mpenzi atokupenda paka kufa. Tumwamini Mungu, kilichopo ndo anatupa. Sayari hii daraja tusimame tunahuka, kitoa track usikae kifyongo fyongo, tafuta skende uongelewe, ndo game ya kibongo.
I had a keen interest right from the beginning in art, and luckily when I was in school I had some very good art teachers. After finishing the secondary school, then I started standing on my own, you know. Up to now, I'm just a freelance artist. Normally what I paint is from day-to-day life. What I see, actually we paint from what we see. These are Zanzibari children playing bao, you know, on the beach. That's why you have seen that I put it white, most of the part is white, showing the sand because it's on the beach. This is a jute material. Call it in Kiswahili junia. It's different from the canvas. So I've been exhibiting so many times in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. We thought it's better now, this time to join together in a group or have an exhibition here. Actually, it's a kind of cultural exchange program to get to know more artists from, from Kenya and probably from Uganda. They'll be around and they get to know us. We thought that that's a very good thing. In Tanzania, we have so many tribes, almost 129 tribes. But luckily, the first president, who was President Nyerere, he was able to join all the people as one thing in terms of language itself, Kiswahili. And so it appears that when you talk about Tanzania, it's easy that this man is a Tanzanian. It's different from Kenya. The music and film has taken a bigger part rather than in the fine arts. Because when you talk about art there, mainly people think of music and film. But again, there are people who are trying to back us, especially the diplomats. They're trying to back most of the visual artists, the fine artists in Tanzania.
I'm a painter, illustrator, and a printmaking. I like to draw, to paint the daily life, because it's a way when I'm living. In Africa is almost the same, but sometimes they're different for the region, but it's the same because people there. It's the same life, it's the same life. Many people, they can see my works, and me, I can promote myself. Even if I don't sell now, but next time I'll sell it and introduce me.
Top of the morning to you all and welcome to Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Mamboy. It is exactly 21 minutes past 7 a.m. We trust you had a peaceful night. You woke up nice and early to get started with your morning with us right here on KBC Channel 1. Today being Monday, we always get to focus on matters concerning the family. And today we're going to be having a conversation that involves our gentlemen. Now, most of the time when we talk about gender-based violence, whoever comes to mind is always our ladies and the children. What of the men? So many men are maybe in this situation, but they are not speaking up. They are suffering in silence. And so far, there have been so many conversations revolving around social media about men who are being, facing gender-based violence, either in their home or in their spaces of work or all these other spaces that they might find themselves in. That is a conversation we're going to be having today, just trying to see how we can best address issues of gender-based violence when it comes to our men. Welcome once again.
Good morning. Best way to start your morning, indeed. Good morning, Kenya. I'm Regina Mangara, and on the 7th of September 2020, we're going to be looking at stories that are making headlines locally, regionally, and internationally. Back at home, here's we are, the debate on school reopening, to open or not. Further on, reggae is back. That and so much more in not too long.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1 and Good Morning Kenya to kickstart your day. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Now, from my end of things today, we shall be looking into politics, analyzing what has happened politically over the weekend. We'll also be having a conversation with Machakos County Governor, that is Alfred Mutua. He has already declared his interest in the presidential seat come 2022. We'll be putting that into context, as well as getting your feedback and your voice on this show. You can do that by hitting our social media platforms at Sam W. Njoroge, at Ray Manyara, I believe, and at Jane Wamboy. Yes, I got them right. So welcome to the program. Let's do this.
All right, let's get straight into it and have a look at the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Quite the array of stories, but mainly matters concerning the political arena here in Kenya. And the main story right there, the big read, is about Raila taking the lion's share of new votes with an estimated 9.3 million potential new voters come 2022. Details of that coming up in a bit. Still there on the front page of the Daily Nation, Governor Mutua announces his presidential bid with so many promises when he was making his formal declaration. We'll be giving you details of that, of course, looking at his recent past, or rather his past, when it comes to politics. On the front page here of the Daily Nation, at the header there, there's one particular interesting bit about revolving matters health, and in this case about COVID-19. Why scientists are baffled by Africa when it comes to how COVID has been behaving since the pandemic was first declared as a global pandemic by the World Health Organization early on in March of this year. Still looking at the front page of the Daily Nation, one particular interesting story here. Man's futile fight to bury son ends in his own death. We'll be giving you details of one Franklin Ochieng, who lost the struggle to save his 23-year-old son from an aggressive disease that claimed his life, and ultimately claiming his life as the father. Details coming up in a bit.
Front page of the Standard issue this morning, which happens to be the 7th of September 2020. That is how it looks like. The school reopening debate. To open schools or not, Uhuru's new challenge. Now, President is to host a high-level meeting to explore options for reopening schools as cases of coronavirus dip, and parents demand clarity on learning calendar. Further on, reggae is back. In as far as politics is concerned, it is business as usual. Now, after months of political activity due to coronavirus, leaders across the spectrum return to the frontline with public rallies and private meetings. Details of this coming up not too long as we focus on the issue of BBI and if there's a referendum in the offing. As far as sports is concerned, a tribunal is set to rule on whether Kogalo, the Green Army, will be keeping the trophy. Now, the Sports Dispute Tribunal will determine today whether Gor Mahia will keep the 2019-2020 FKF President title. That is, FKF President Nikwe Mwendwa tweeted to them in April 30th of this year. Further on, and looking at matters business, is that the ministry has signed 41 new electricity deals that Kenyans do not need. What does this mean? In a nutshell, is that the Energy Ministry licenses more independent power producers even as the electricity supply outstrips demand, meaning the latest deal will see Kenyans pay more billions for idle electricity. Details coming up shortly.
Now let's let you know what is happening with the Star this morning, and the headline reads, KEMSA probe, EACC targets 50 companies, and Anti-Corruption Commission also going after politicians. Now this story is covered on page 2 of the Star, where ex-Karachuonyo MP Reggae is not a signatory of Duke Limited. It's a cash link to this KEMSA probe, and you will find details covered by this daily. Let's also look at the left of this particular paper, where Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua launched his presidential bid in Athi River yesterday, and Mutua calls for fresh start at next polls, says he will fight graft. Also, there is an image there drawing the attention and also showing how Kenyans are feeling right now. It's an unusually wet September, and it shows an elderly woman there walking in the rain in downtown Nairobi on Saturday, and the rains have continued since then. Also highlighted here, divided cabinet does politicking, or do politicking ministers have Uhuru's blessing? That story is on pages 4 to 5 of the Star today. Also, there is an appeal for help where mother's pain of losing son whose body is stuck in a foreign land. Also, canonization Otunga's sainthood journey on course, says the Catholic Church. And also, in terms of opinions, we've got Sami Gatere there, who talks about democracy being hijacked by what he calls president's men. All right, so that's the Star for you today, and we'll be giving you more details in the course of this review.
All right. Let's start with the main story on the front page of the Daily Nation about Raila's voting base. And here, when it comes to politics, Uhuru Ruto fallout will affect the vote reach of Mount Kenya and Rift Valley, as has been written here. And looking at this particular story, Raila bases have a bulk of 9 million new voters. Now, this 9 million is said to be the additional number of voters that, will be eligible to vote come 2022, as opposed to how things were back in 2017. With the young people, making up the bigger percentage, the bigger chunk of this 9 million, with standing at about 5.3 young people who will have attained voting age come 2022. And they are said to be, this 9.3 million, or rather this 5.3 million, are said to be in the regions that, heavily voted for Raila Odinga in 2017 and also still remain to be his strongholds. And these are areas that include Nyanza, Western Coast, and Turkana. And looking at the past, they are the areas that, overwhelmingly voted for Mr. Odinga in the past election. And of course, bringing the narrow margin between His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila right now. And now it is projected that, the voters register could grow to 29 million come 2022 on the back of a legion of new young voters, which will increase the number of voters from 19.6 million, as was listed in 2017, to 29 million come 2022. Now, this turnout is going to decide the ultimate winner, as the past two elections, we have always had very narrow margins with 50.0% to just avoid a runoff, as was in 2013 and 2017. But come 2022, things might be different. And listed therein on the far right of your screen, you can see the different counties and the number of registered voters, and those who were not listed in 2017 and those who will potentially be listed come 2022, especially looking at those who are over 18, and a further 4 million people who did not vote in 2017 but were listed and registered.
Now, still keeping up with matters of politics, front page of the Standard, reggae is back. Captured there is from a premier and ODM leader there, Raila Odinga. Proceeding on to page 7, where the details is that return of reggae. Raila begins tours to sell the BBI agenda. Now, the ODM leader met Kakamega MCAs at the residence of Governor Wycliffe Oparanya in Mabole, Butere, and reaffirmed that reggae is on course and urged local leaders to back the referendum campaigns. Now, allies to Deputy President William Ruto are opposed to changes envisaged under BBI, while the ODM leader also ruled out a possible pre-election pact, signaling that some view as plans to form a single party with President Kenyatta ahead of the 2020 polls. Now, Raila is categorical that his party will conduct nationwide elections to expand its support base. Now, still keeping up with matters politics and in regard to BBI, is that get ready for a referendum in March next year. Now, parties backing the handshake tasked with the fast-tracking adoption of the BBI report that is expected to be out by the end of this month. This would consequently pave way for the referendum ahead of the 2022 election, which is set to change the country's political landscape as well as shape Uhuru's succession. Now, the handshake team will be required to collect at least 1 million signatures from voters in support of the proposed changes that should take the popular initiative route and submit the signatures alongside a referendum bill. The commission would then be expected to submit the bill to the 47 county assemblies once it verifies as return of reggae takes center stage as far as our political scene is concerned.
Moving on now to the Star, taking page 8 of this particular newspaper. Strike deal on revenue formula urgently to save counties. And this is ANC party leader Mudavadi telling senators, where ANC leader appealed to lawmakers to put aside their personal and political differences to break the deadlock that threatens to paralyze operations in the devolved units, even as governors cry foul over delayed release of the funds. You will find that story covered there, and indeed over over the weekend, we did see a lot happening in Kakamega. We saw almost, a back and forth between the Speaker, Kenneth Lusaka, and the COG chairman, that is Wycliffe Oparanya, on this very issue. And it's actually during that particular meeting where Oparanya said that if nothing is done within the next 2 weeks, then they will be considering paralyzing services across the counties, because it's getting harder and harder for counties to operate without the cash. So that story there is covered by the Star on page 8, where Mudavadi echoes the need to have a formula as soon as possible to avert any adverse effects of delayed funds to the counties that could be paralyzing the service delivery across the 47 devolved units.
Now let's move on to another story that is on the front page of the Daily Nation, and this is in regards to the presidential race, and in this particular case involving Governor Mutua, where he now threw his hat in the race with his presidential declaration. Governor, as he launched his presidential bid, vowing to reboot the country's leadership. Now he also pledged some goodies in a race for the top seats, as Machakos promises to create 5 million jobs in the first 3 years if he does get elected. But looking at his launch yesterday, he's now saying that he's going to be giving Ukambani and Kenya at large a new presidential political dimension. With Dr. Mutua joining the race, it is now likely to complicate matters for Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who has for years shaped the region's politics as is a political supremo. Now, during the launch of his presidential bid, the governor is quoted here having quoted a particular verse in the Bible, that is 2 Corinthians 5:7. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. According to the Daily here, it is being said that this verse may have in one way be referring to former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, and was probably directed to him, but that is subject to so much debate. And still looking at this particular story, it is that now the stage is set for what is being termed as a fierce political duel with Mr. Musyoka for the control of the region before setting out to hunt for votes in other parts of the country. And according to Wiper Secretary General, that is Judith Sinjeni, she recently told of some Ukambani leaders who were seeking advice to vie for presidency, and said that this is not a walk in the park. That is what is happening in Ukambani region.
And talking about what is happening in the Ukambani region, we bring in the governor of Machakos, that is Alfred Mutua, who's joining us live by way of Zoom to talk about his presidential bid and the state of affairs in Machakos County. Governor, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Asante sana, I'm very glad to be here. It's another fresh morning, na sasa tunasema mambo ni fresh na Mutua.
Nice, that's good, and congratulations on the fine establishment you now have in Machakos.
It is time to reboot the system.
Yeah. Governor, do I still have you?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Are you getting me?
Yes, I can. I can get you. Now, straight on, why the presidency for you in 2022?
Yeah, because the time has come for the younger generation to take over leadership in this country. And what you're saying is that we've had 60 years since independence. Countries that were independent with us were the same level as with us in 1963, 1970, 1978 when Kenyatta died, are now 100 times, even others 10,000 times richer than us. These are countries with fewer resources than we have. These are countries with basically nothing in terms of blessings by God. Yet we have so much in terms of brain power, so much in terms of mineral resources, land, human capital, and yet we are the wretched of the earth, which means that the system we've been using, the processor in the computer has a problem. Na computer ya Kenya imehang, and we need to reset that computer, go back to what we wanted to achieve in 1960, 63 when we got our independence, and start afresh with a fresh blood, with fresh people who now are thinking about, yes, we got freedom from the colonial powers,
Yeah.
but now we want economic freedom. We are tired of being poor in a country that is so rich, and we want a new leader who understands what it takes to make people rich in this country.
And what is it that you will do differently?
You see, I have experience. I'm tried and tested. I worked under Mwai Kibaki, who, as a very economic president, tried to roll back poverty. I've worked as a governor in Machakos, where I have, even as a party leader of Maendeleo Chap, I've worked hard to roll back poverty. I know what works and what does not work. I've lived overseas. I've lived 15 years in the United States, in Australia, in the UAE, traveled all over Europe, worked as a foreign correspondent. I've studied economics. And the challenges we have in this country is the way we do things. For example, let's look at bureaucracy. In Rwanda, it will take us 14 days. It will take people 14 days in Rwanda to go. You come from overseas, go into that country. Within 14 days, you can set up your factory. In Kenya, if you're lucky, it is 2 years, and you have to bribe a myriad of people just to get permits. We have to cut out the bureaucracy. Look at the government processes. Before anybody is paid for anything after delivering a service, it takes 32 to 34 steps. Going control of budgets, your treasuries, your nini, all those stages which are open to corruption. You look at the ease of people being able to get employment, ease of people being able to move. It's very difficult in this country. Everything works against you. To get a job in this country, you have to know somebody. Our young people also, they tell me, you have to know somebody. You write an application, when they put advertisements, it is because they already have somebody in mind. We want a fair country. And as a president of this country, I'll create fairness. I'll say it is very wrong for our parents to educate our students. It is very wrong for our parents to educate our children to study very hard, and then afterward stay at home with no jobs. Where are we going as a country? So we need a new revolution. We need to reset the computer so we may hang.
All right, let's talk about 1.6 billion. That is the estimated cost of your campaigns, according to you. What exactly informed this figure?
No, it's not 1.6 billion. It will be about 3.5 billion. You look at it, for example, just the day of the poll, just to protect the vote and to ensure that you have agents left, right, and center who are able to protect your vote and represent you on the ground. It will close to be 35 to 40,000 polling stations. So we're estimating that day alone is 600 to 700 million shillings. Now, the activities leading on to that time, you cannot run for president if you're not fielding MPs, if you're not fielding senators, if you're not fielding MCAs, if you're not fielding women rep, and they need support from the party. That by itself is another 1.5 billion. And then the lead up to the campaign, the period where you're campaigning, the adverts, is everything, takes another 1 billion plus. So billion comfortably win the seat of the presidency.
Okay, and why now, Governor? Why announce your bid right now, 2020? Why not wait maybe next year? Why now?
Because it will take time to vote. You need time. You need time to go across the country telling people and selling your ideology. If you wait until too late, it's going to be too late. Other people have been campaigning. Look at the people who've been there. Others have been campaigning for 30 years. Others have been campaigning for 10 years, 7 years. Every weekend in a church somewhere, in a rally somewhere. So you need to start early. And I'm motivated by Barack Obama. And former President Barack Obama of the US, he started 2 years to the elections. It is exactly now 2 years to the general election. And just like Barack Obama, I want to start slowly, build up momentum so that by the time we get to the 2022, it's not too late. I'm not doing a last minute dash. Hii ni marathon. You start the marathon early so that you're able to complete properly and be able to win.
All right, complete properly and be able to win. And maybe you can start the Ukambani vote in itself. A lot of people have declared interest in the presidency. From Ukambani, there is yourself, there is Makueni Governor, Kivutha Kibwana, there is also Kalonzo Musyoka, who is said to be eyeing the same seat. How will you galvanize your home base first before you talk about the national basket of votes?
It's actually you galvanize the national vote, and also you galvanize your county, your region first. We also need to get this mentality of and saying that your base has to be from where you are born. Nobody sends a postcard and says that you need to be born Akamba, Aluo, Akikuyu. And therein lies the problem. Why is it that a country like Singapore, Why is it like a country like South Korea that was poorer than Kenya is in a position now to loan us money? South Korea is making phones called Samsung, TVs called Samsung and LG, phones, everything. They have cars called Hyundai and Kia. What are we producing in this country? It's because those countries are not hooked up to the colonial machinations and indoctrination of tribalism. The colonial powers used the tribe. They said, yes, you are a Kenyan. Yes, you have red blood. Yes, you feel pain like everybody else. Yes, you're a good person. You have good neighbors. You can play others. However, wewe ni kabila fulani. So when it comes to politics, go back to that native primitive button and push that button of tribalism. And so a base is not necessarily just where you come from. A base is where you command support. And my support is very different. This country today, 80% of the people in this country are younger than 40 years old. These are people who have not been brought up in the old system. 70% of those people are below the age of 25. They don't know tribalism the way the older generation knows tribalism. These are the people we are counting on. This is my base. The women of this country. Women are less tribal than men, research has shown. The women care about somebody who is going to help them feed their children, who is going to provide the roads and the water, who is going to ensure that they can walk home at midnight without the fear of being raped, who know that they are not going to suffer, sleep hungry as they feed their children. The women of this country, the youth of this country, are a very strong base regardless of your tribe. Let me give you an example. If an accident happens and somebody is rushed to a hospital, and you go to the hospital and you find your loved one, your mother, your father, or your lover there, your wife or husband or your child, and they are dying, tumbo imepasuka, and you are told wacha to rush theater, wakishona wataponea chupuchupu. As you are going to theater, do you say ngoja kidogo, nataka kujua huyo mtu ni wa besi yangu, huyo daktari anayemtreat ni kabila langu, ni Mjaluo kama mimi, ni Mkikuyu kama mimi, ni Mmasai kama mimi. It is this concept of thinking that everybody who stands has to be your tribe and that you carry a base. That is where the problem is. And that is why it's saying we need to reboot the computer. We reboot the computer, we start with new processing that looks at everybody as a Kenyan. In the United States, nobody told Obama, wewe kwanza endo lete wote wako US, Wajaluo wote, amo hiyo ndio base yako. No. He was told you can become president of a white country with Hispanics and others because of what you stand for. That's the case we are going to change.
All right, let me just draw your attention to a statement you made yesterday, and I quote, Kenyans do not want politics, Kenyans want a doer. We are tired of government plans that never get implemented. That is what you said yesterday. Just paint for us the context behind this statement, owing to the fact that even you yourself has been, or you've been in government for quite a long time.
What you're looking at is, for example, we've got the session paper that were written by Mwai Kibaki and Tomboya gathering dust. We've got so many reports that have been done. We've got so many development programs, including Vision 2030 that I participated in, that are yet to be implemented. We do a lot of talking in our country. We don't implement. When the late Michuki came into power and he became the Minister for Transport, he changed transport. He called me when I became government spokesman, and I went to his office. And Michuki had put books on top of his table. His office was full of books. And he sat me down and he said, Alfred, he used to call me Alfred, the Michuki rules were not invented. It was not new regulations. It was not a new law. All I did was to implement the laws in the existing books, all these books on my table. So we have the laws, we have the regulations, but do we have the will? Do we have the foresight to know that we just need to implement the projects and programs that we have? So we need a leader who knows how to implement, a leader who knows how people suffer, a leader who knows that we have to bring down the gap between the rich and the poor. Let the rich make money, because the rich are making money and they're forming businesses, they're employing our people. But we need also to create a way for the middle class. A child has to wake up today and dream of owning a car and actually owning the car as it is in the United States.
All right, let me take a question here that is coming through online, and it's from, he says he's a resident of Machakos, and he's asking you, Daktari, why is it that Machakos UHC pioneer staff were sent home parking, yet you talk about job creation?
Yes, it's because of the wage bill. And that is what I'm talking about. We have the first thing they need to acknowledge is that Machakos has universal healthcare. Through the collaboration with President Uhuru Kenyatta, in Machakos, you're treated free of charge. You can walk into a Machakos hospital. If you're sick, you call the ambulance, it picks you. It doesn't matter how sick you are. It will take you to hospital free of charge from every corner of Machakos, because we have an ambulance for every administrative location that is fueled and ready 24/7. When you get to the hospital, seeing doctor, go to theater for any surgery. If you have to be admitted even for 2 years, you pay nothing. We have Machakos Cancer Center, whereby you can go, because nobody chooses to have cancer. You can go and you can do pathology tests free of charge. If you're found to have cancer, you can be put on medication, chemotherapy, even costing 30 million shillings, free of charge. That is the most important thing, is that in Machakos, we've got universal healthcare. We've beefed up our hospitals and everything. Now, the universal healthcare program was also based on additional staff with monies coming in from the national government. Now, that program that we are continuing in Machakos, the one that we are getting support from the national government, has come to an end. President Uhuru Kenyatta is yet to roll it out nationally. So the staff that we had hired were hired for us, actually, through the national UHC, cannot continue being working because we don't have the funds to pay them. So we are pushing President Uhuru Kenyatta to start the program so that we have enough monies to pay these staff members who actually need the job, because we actually need them working. So it's a cat and mouse idea. So it's not a failure in part, it is just how the system is.
Talking about the system, there's another viewer watching you from Watamu, and he's asking you this question. Because again, he's saying, Governor, kumbuka ule msemo, kazi kwa vijana, mishahara kwa wazee. How are you going to counter that and ensure that you integrate the youth as part and parcel of your development?
You see, the youth do not want handouts in this country. The youth want opportunities. And my system, when I say I'm going to create 5 million jobs in 3 years, is through empowering, getting the base of businesses. You know, the businesses that employ people all over the world. If you go to Thailand, you go to South Korea, you go to the UK. Small in Kenya, those small medium enterprises, there are so many programs that have been set up by the national government that have never been implemented. We just need to implement just 50% of those programs that support SMEs with government funding, and also remove and supporting the growth of industry, and will create jobs immediately. It is common sense. We tried it during the Kibaki time and it stopped. I tested all over the world. It works. The SMEs, small enterprises. We have to get people building credit. People have to be able to have a country where the tax base is bad, because the tax are lower because we pay too much for taxes. But also we need to provide services. For example, I say that I'm going to build roads in every sub-county, a new tarmac in every sub-county within the first 2-3 years of governance, and another road. Let's build roads. Let's have urban regeneration so that every county, every sub-county has new urban area lifting up. That is how you grow money. That is how you get money to circulate. That is how you empower people to grow.
How will you tackle corruption?
It's very simple. You see, the challenge we have in corruption is basically the legal system. I will, first of all, do like what you do in petitions. If you're elected, when I'm elected, people go and petition. The law says the day you are elected, within 6 months from that day, a case put forth has to be completed. Either the case is thrown out or a ruling is given. That is how it works with the election petition. 6 months. Ati kwa sababu ni siasa. So ikiwa ni siasa, inaharakishwa. And actually, judges are gazetted to come from all over. Judge is gazetted to sit in Muranga. Judge is gazetted to sit in Kilifi. A judge is gazetted to sit in Mombasa, to sit in Narok, to sit in Machakos, to sit in Kirinyaga, to sit everywhere in this country. A judge is gazetted. And magistrates are gazetted. And they just deal with those cases, even 2 to 3 judges, to ensure that it leads up to 6 months. Iishe kabisa. Who will support the judiciary? Judiciary needs more money. We need to pump money into the judiciary, but the judiciary also has to be able to deliver the rulings very quickly, so that from the time a person is charged, has taken plea, within 6 months, if that person is innocent, even for their own human rights, they are able to go back to their lives. If they are guilty, waende committee. Appeal stuff. If it is done, people will realize that corruption is a problem. We're also going to push laws and say that any judicial officer who takes a bribe, maybe a judge, maybe a magistrate, maybe a lawyer, maybe a clerk of the court, any judicial officer who takes a bribe for any case, hata ikiwa ni wizi wa kuku, they get life in prison. So we make it very difficult. We create a fair country. So, but we support the judiciary. We make sure that they are also oiled enough in terms of resources to be able to deliver justice to our people. It is something that I believe can be done. We have the resources to do it, and we just need to change the law and the will to be able to set up new courts by the Chief Justice. Very quickly.
In the course of you fighting graft, once you become president, how will you address the whole issue of big names, cartels, and their untouchables when it comes to this particular fight?
You see, the advantage that I have running for president is that I'm not just new. I worked under Mwai Kibaki for 10 years. I have government, several government formations, looking at organization of government. I understand how the national government goes. I understand how the cartels are forward through at the end of Woodbag. I was there, the whole Anglo-leasing, the sugar scam, all these scams. I have seen how the cartels are formed. They're not formed very far from the center. It's usually the government people who actually form these cartels, from the procurement up, when things are decided even beforehand. So I understand the system. I understand how I'm going to unplug these cartels. We need a fair country. We need people to know that they can provide a service and they'll be paid. They can run for a tender and it will be fair and they'll be able to get the tender. And so I understand the problem that counties are facing when it comes to graft. I understand how they are divided and everything. So I am better to fight graft because I have been within the system and I have fought within the system and I know where the skeletons are hidden.
You know where the skeletons are hidden. Okay, we will be looking forward to that. And how about fostering cohesion, Governor? Previous regimes, up and including the current one, have complained and shared concern over a divided nation. How will you foster cohesion in this country?
It's just basically do three things. One of them is that we need a fair country. People need to feel that it doesn't matter what tribe you are. It doesn't matter where you are born. It doesn't matter who your parent is, that you are going to get a fair deal. I lived in Australia for a while. In Australia, they talk about a fair go, that anybody can go and apply for a job or apply for a loan or apply, and you are going to get a fair go. It is not about who you are, your tribe or your background. You get a fair go. We need to create a culture of fairness so that if you go to court and you lose a case, you know it is because your lawyer did not put in a good case or you deserve to lose, not because judge aliongeleshwa, not because mtu aliongeleshwa ama simu ilipigwa. If you apply for a job and you don't get it, it is because you are not qualified, not because mtoto wa fulani aliletwe ama mtu aliitishia mtoto wake kazi kwa board ama kwa kazi ingine. So we need first of all to create a fair country. That is my principle, is that we need to start afresh and say, let us be fair to each other, have a fair movement going on around our country, and we all strive for fairness. And Kenyans are very good people. Kenyans si wabaya. Majority of Kenyans want fairness. They just want to be treated well. Number two, I don't know, have you ever heard of people doing a handshake in the UK or going for a handshake in France or Sweden or Switzerland or Brazil or Canada? The reason here we have handshakes and here people say, oh, let's have cohesion, live well, is because we are poor. Rich countries don't have these simple problems of cohesion. Ati tushikane mkono, tukue kitu kimoja, unity, because they are rich. Rich people live in suburbs. You go to these suburbs of rich people, you go to Keren in Nairobi, you go to Muthaiga, you go to Nyali. The neighbors who are rich, they meet in the club. Hawana shida hao wenyewe. They are rich. The rich club, they don't have issues of cohesion. Uwe kabila hii, they only talk about money. We need our people to be in the middle class. Once you roll back poverty and you remove these feelings of inequality, people will automatically have cohesion. The biggest problem we have in our country is poverty. People are so poor and so desperate. Therefore, they start seeing the other as the enemy. Every political cycle, we have people who are blamed. Naambiwa nyinyi wa kabila hii ndio mmefanya tuumie. People are mobilized against tribes, in systems whereby they blame other tribes. So una blame tribes zingine. Sasa kwa sababu hao ni maskini, mtu unaona mimi ni maskini, so it must be the fault of the other person. But if people are rich, they don't care. They don't care. They say, wait a minute, I am married to a different tribe. My child plays soccer. My girl goes to a choir with a different tribe. So why am I fighting over politics, over different tribes? Sisi wote ndugu moja, tunaenda kanisa moja, different tribes. So that will end. And the third thing is removing the cancer of tribalism. I'm going to ensure that the young people in this country reject tribalism. We have to reject tribalism. We will go out there and do things that are different to say we don't want that sickness, that primitive sickness of being arranged in tribal lines. Tuachane na ukabila. Tukiachana na ukabila, just like in Tanzania, nobody cares which president, which country, tribe you're in. The former president of Tanzania, His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete, is a very good friend of mine. One time I was with him in Dar es Salaam and I asked him, so which tribe do you come from? Na akacheka akasema, you Kenyans are cursed with tribe. And he told me that he comes from a very small tribe from Tanga. Small, like the Robos. Very, very small. Like a very, very small tribe in Tanzania. And he was the president of Tanzania. The big tribes of Tanzania, the Chagas, the Nyamwezis, the Sukumas, the huge tribes of Tanzania have never had a president. Because the Tanzanians don't look at the tribe. They look at the person. They look at the individual. They look at the character and the ability of the person to be a leader. And that's how, in a country like Tanzania, somebody from a very, very small tribe can be a president. Lakini hapa Kenya unaulizwa, wewe kwanza uko Kalonzo Kibwana, hiyo base yako utapata mna gani? So your base is your tribe in this country. That sickness has to be removed.
All right, Governor, thank you so much for your time. In the course of time, now that you've launched your presidential bid, I believe we shall be interacting to get to understand more on why you want to be the president of this country and what it is that you're going to change, and also have an opportunity to explain your manifesto to Kenyans. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your time and enjoy your day.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you very much, and I ask all your viewers for their support. Tunasema mambo ni fresh na Mutua. We want a fresh Kenya. Kenya needs to start afresh. Otherwise, 50 years from now, tutakuwa tu ni ukabila. It will be all these unfair systems. Na tutakuwa tunasema Mungu tusaidie. We need to say we want change in this country, but we also have to change in the way we choose our leaders. And I present myself to you and humbly request for your support. As a young Kenyan, as a young man, educated overseas, locally, grown up poor, who knows what needs to change this country for you. And I will be your servant, President. Thank you, and God bless you. Mambo ni fresh na Mutua.
All right, thank you so much, Governor. And Mambo ni fresh na Mutua. That is Governor Alfred Mutua, Machakos County Governor Alfred Mutua, talking about his presidential bid come 2022 and some of the things that he's going to do differently if he clinches the top seat. Will he or will he not? That is a question that can only be answered by time as we continue probing his political interests moving forward. We are taking a break. We'll be back with more. Keep it. Good morning, Kenya.
Say all kind of things about you. We them on, just shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. When your booty got show me now. Baby, one time, bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180, crazy. a la botella.
Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you. Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, te pago, te pago. Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe. Pequeña katoto, camini pequeña, pequeña katoto.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
May you be victorious. I believe you will leave me spellbound by your performance.
Certainly.
I know whom you're looking for, but Siamak is not here. But I'm sure that he will be here to witness his friends and brothers' victory for sure.
I had told you before, Queen Mother. Siamak would get his right only by snatching it. I don't know why you are not doing anything about it.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I will sleep when I'm dead.
Don't you dare tell me how to heal my daughter, Wanjala.
So all this while you never loved any of us?
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Why are you so bothered anyway? Isn't your rich Ugandan tycoon enough for you?
I loved all of you. Tulia.
Jimmy. Nataka ule Jimmy alikuwa ananipush hard, unaona?
Lazima usikize akili yako na mwili wako.
Hakuna tumbaya na akili yangu na mwili yangu. I need you to push me.
Jimmy, ebu kuja hapa haraka saizi ama nikuue.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You send that email. Don't tell me that you didn't do it.
No. Ramon, this is Sophia. I have 1,000 things to say, but the most important one is I love you. I have always loved you, and I always will. If I told you that you weren't important to me, it was just to protect you, but now nothing can keep us apart anymore, Ramon. I'm looking for you so we can love each other forever. Please come here. I will be at the building of Daybreak Radio for the next 3 days, every afternoon at 5 o'clock. Please come, Ramon. I really need you.
In love with Ramon.
And it's 6 minutes past 8 a.m. Time for our fast traffic link this Monday morning. I want us to focus on Kisumu County or Kisumu City. That will be our focus this morning. And as I promised, we'll be exploring different cities to just try and see how they're doing in terms of traffic. So just want us to start from, this is actually next to the Naivas Supermarket, one of those busy areas. Look at this roundabout, no different from how it's normally is in here in Nairobi County. When you look at how roundabouts are normally in terms of traffic, just what we are seeing is basically what we'd expect to see, gridlock through the entire roundabout. But this is one of those busy roundabouts as it heads all the way over to, Kisumu Busia Road. So clearly one of those busy roundabouts and joining all the way to the western part of the country and all those counties in the western side. So clearly one of those busy roundabouts, also heading all the way to Jomo Kenyatta Highway, coming all the way from Busia, Kisumu Busia Road, as I mentioned, and going all the way, to that specific area. Just around this roundabout, this is around the KCB Muhoroni area, where traffic is really building up, and you can see those cocktail of colors there, the red as well as the orange, indicating that in some parts traffic moving at a pretty slow pace, in others just beginning to slightly build up. But as I was checking, this roundabout, or specifically just traffic in this city, I have not spotted any of the maroon color, given the fact that it's a couple of minutes past 8, and oftentimes, at this hour, this time, what you normally see, especially on major roads, regardless of place, is just more of the maroon color, indicating that it's just moving, it's not even moving at all, just at a standstill, given the fact that it is the early morning hour, and oftentimes that is what we'd expect to see. But it's so unlike, because in Kisumu City I've not seen any of that. It's just a bit of the red color and more of the orange color there. So clearly, means that it's not quite as busy as how it is in Nairobi City. It looks like Nairobi is just one of those cities where it's normally busy, especially in this early morning hour. But even in terms of reconstruction, like how we'd see in Nairobi, also that has been happening in Kisumu, especially just at the heart of Kisumu City. We've seen actually that road reconstructed, and probably in the next link-up segment I'll be trying to look at some images for you, just to show you how that process has been coming along and how that has really, positively impacted that specific city. But coming back to traffic, just branching off again from that roundabout, which you're trying to look at this morning, heading all the way to Achieng Oneko Road. Again, no traffic build up there, moving at a pretty fast pace. So also what this means that if you're coming to the city of Kisumu, then clearly is really a best time for you, because there's barely any heavy traffic gridlock. But looking at this road, which is the Kisumu-Busia Road, branching off from this roundabout, also moving really, really fast. And also this route heads all the way to Nairobi County. So again, one of those instrumental, routes or roads in Kisumu City, coming all the way, to Nairobi again on the other side. But as you head over to the city of Nairobi using this specific route, traffic just moving at a pretty slow pace there, and that is why there's the red color there. But actually on major parts of this road this morning, really moving at a really, really fast pace. In areas where I'm just spotting traffic is areas where it's either near to or next to a roundabout, next to a supermarket, next to a mall, or just next to a university or a campus or even a school. That's just where there's a bit of a traffic building up, which is very interesting because schools are now closed. So it's pretty interesting to see that in areas where it's next to a school, there's what you're seeing in terms of traffic. And this just also next to the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, that is a university there, where traffic again building up, and you can clearly see just from our map this morning the bit of red and orange color there. But again, this just specifically on that lane that leads you all the way to the city or the heart of the city there. So again, just before I explore other parts of this route, let's look at that roundabout again. That is actually next to the National Oil roundabout, which is again just as you are heading over to the city there. It looks like things have changed right now, and I'm beginning to see just the road opening up. You can remember that in the first couple of minutes it was a bit of the red and the orange color there, indicating that in some parts traffic is moving at a pretty slow pace, in others just beginning to slightly build up. But as of now, things have changed altogether, and there's a green color there, especially as you branch off to the Achieng Oneko Road, heading all the way to the estates there. Alike on that specific lane, no traffic at all, moving at a really, really fast pace. But on the other side of the road, this is as you head over to the Jomo Kenyatta Highway, on that specific one, traffic building up. And the sad part is that this is actually on both lanes. So the lane that is heading to the roundabout as well as the one that is leaving the roundabout. But as I mentioned, probably in the next link-up segment, we'll be trying to look at those images and just try and see how that reconstruction process of Kisumu City has been coming along in terms of the road reconstruction process in this specific city. But as of now, that is how it's looking like in terms of our road when it comes to traffic, our focus being in Kisumu City this Monday morning.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. That is what is happening in Kisumu County. Right now, we get back to the discussions here in studio. And right now, we were switching gears to matters concerning the family and our family check segment. Today, we are going to be having a conversation involving our men, and especially in regards to gender-based violence. But before we get to that, just looking at your feedback. Remember, we always appreciate you for talking to us from wherever it is you're watching us from across the country. On Twitter, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. At KBC Channel 1 is our official station handle. My colleagues, you can find them as Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, at Sam W. Joroge, and my handle is at Jane Wambui across all social media platforms. And just seeing some of your feedback from that conversation we had with Governor Mutua. I can see Victor Tora, who is actually appreciating that conversation. UHC pilot Machakos County also saying he would have loved to be part of that virtual conversation. We'll be organized for future conversations around that. Thank you, Terry, for tuning in. I see Evans Adwiga also appreciating that conversation with Governor Mutua. Kamau Wamarugu on Twitter saying, I agree with Mutua that Kenya's computer hanged a long time ago and it needs to be formatted and programmed afresh with new efficient softwares that are impossible to hack. That is Kamau Wamarugu there. Teacher Ngati is saying, I love the statement, we need to reset the computer because it may hang, because it's true, it may hang. All right. I also see William Mwamburi, who's tuned in from Watamu, saying good morning. Following the live sentiments of Governor Mutua, he has a good vision of uniting Kenya when he becomes the president of the state. Again, speaking in regards to the disjointed state that the country may have been. He also did share a question in regards to the interview with Governor Mutua, which was aired to him. I also have another tweet here. Let me quickly get it. Let's have it. This one is also Mwamburi also proceeding on to say that there's no need to reboot or reset. Dispose all machines in a dump site, put a fire on it, destroy them, then buy new machines with fresh softwares and hardwares for efficient service delivery in the country. And also one last tweet from Faraday Chalo saying kiongozi shupavu right there, anayepaswa kupewa urais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Those are just some of your feedbacks in regards to that particular interview we had with Governor Mutua right there. And one coming in just now from Linet Omwaka saying, together he can keep your head up, Governor Mutua. Mungu akuhifadhi, utaweza kupata kiti katika ikulu. Thank you so much for that. Keep your feedback coming through using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1, and do remember to tag us individually. My handle once again is at Jane Wambui. So right now we get back to the conversation about gender-based violence, and in this particular one today we are going to be focusing on our men, because when it comes to GBV against men, by experts, it has been termed as a silent crisis. But why is that so? Over the weekend, there was this social experiment that I did see on social media, where there was a guy who was, being very vigorous and being very violent with the lady in a public platform, and immediately people would react to that situation and, just tame this guy, pull him away, and some even attacked him. But when the same case was reversed, when it was the lady who was being violent and aggressive with the guy, nobody was, coming to defend the guy, and some actually went ahead to help the lady hit the guy. And this all put a question to put up the big question out there: why do we respond to violence when it is a woman who is being violated against, but when it is a man, we tend to be more accommodative? Bringing this whole particular conversation today about gender-based violence. And to help us with this conversation this morning, we have with us three guests in studio this morning. To my immediate left, we have Jane Mugo, who is a teacher and a mentor. Karibu sana, Jane. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. And the other extreme side of studio, we have two gentlemen with us who are going to be helping us understand from their perspective this whole conversation. We have right there Kevin Kipto, who is the current Mr. Worldwide Kenya. Karibu sana, Kipto.
Thank you.
And next to him, socially distanced, we have Keith Abonyo, who is the second runners-up in the Mr. Worldwide Kenya competition. Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. We do hope to hear, your own perspectives from this. But let me start with you, Jane. When we talk about gender-based violence against men, why is it? Why do we tend to even shy away from actually talking about it?
Yeah, the reason is obvious, because you have so many humanitarian organizations that want to work mainly with girl child. Yeah.
And isn't this a bit, in a sense, discriminating against the young boys, given that we are very vocal about gender-based violence when it comes to our ladies as opposed to our gentlemen?
Yes, they are. And that is why I started an initiative dubbed She for He, and that is what to be looking into mainly, the negligence of the boy child. Yeah.
All right. Let me come to you, Kevin. When you talk about gender-based violence against men, how do you think it presents itself in this day and time?
Okay, gender-based violence against men, it's rarely addressed, though it's a crisis in our country and even outside, because there's this masculinity, toxic masculinity among men. They fear being out there to address this issue, to come out and say, we are being violated, because the society will judge them. But at the end of the day, it's about you. It's about how your life will be. Yeah.
All right. And also to you, Keith, I mean, from where you sit, what is your understanding of gender-based violence against men?
Okay, I think over the centuries, actually a lot of effort has been put on women. And it makes us think that
women are the most vulnerable to the society when it comes to gender-based violence. But the other side of the fact is that men have actually been taken to be like they are that strong person who doesn't have to cry, doesn't have to talk, doesn't have to say anything. They just have to persevere the situation. But I think it's not weakness when a man speaks about their feelings or what they are going through. So I think it's high time that we understand that as much as women go through this thing at a higher percentage, men also do go through it. So somebody made me to understand that in 100%, if we take 50%, only 18% of men in that percentage are going through gender-based violence. But I think the 18%, maybe they're the people who are really actually coming out. What about the people who are silent? Actually, the men who are silent.
All right. And looking at the way as a society we raise our young boys, do you think upbringing has a role to play when it comes to this system of men not being allowed, in quotes, to speak how they feel? Let me come back to you, Keith.
Actually, gender-based violence is something that it's not all about ignorance. Let me start from there. It's something that is there with us. Some of us, we do it when we are not aware that we are doing it, or we do it without knowing that actually we are subjecting somebody to this, or I'm going through this. For instance, a young boy or a young man will learn violence from the father. If the father is always violent and drunk and beating the mother, this boy will grow up actually knowing that this is the way. Also, other contents from, let's say, movies, violent movies, actually, and growing up with other people who have different characters, the violent characters. Young people will actually learn exactly from us, and they will imitate, and they will just know that this is the way of life, because they know no better. This is all they know. They have seen this, and this is what they do. So actually, they will grow up knowing that if somebody does something against me that I don't like it, I have an option, and the option is just to beat him, just like my father used to do. So upbringing has got a lot to do with the gender-based violence in the society.
Especially against men.
Yes.
Now, let me come back to you, Jane. And looking at, we are Africans and we're very cultural. Do you feel our culture as Africans has also contributed to this lack of paying attention to gender-based violence against men?
Yes, it has greatly.
In what ways?
Jane, as a teacher, who has been dealing with boys and girls as well, but I decided to concentrate mainly with boys because I've realized that so many, like I said, so many organizations want to work with the girl child. And so I had to break this norm and come as a she now supporting the boy child. I think it will have more impact. So the culture has contributed greatly. Like, for example, where I teach, we find that if a boy brings a case crying, maybe they were out there outside playing during break, and the boy brings a case crying, and they'll come to this teacher, and they'll be like, what has happened? So the guy starts, because we have warned them against fighting, and so they'll come to us to report. And so the moment the boy starts explaining himself, what had happened, and he mentions a name, it's Margaret, the mention of the girl, and the teachers all over attacking the boy. A man? You're a man, you cannot do, you see. So the boy is, because gender-based violence is not just about sexual violence, it entails a lot.
It comes in many forms.
Emotion, it comes in many forms.
Yeah.
But many people think they have that notion, it's about sex. No, it's about emotion and others. And what happens is that if you attack that boy and you made him believe that he's a man, he may pilot because he doesn't want to fight back, because he's fearing the punishment and everything else.
Yeah.
He's going to pilot. So the moment it piles, in due course, when the right time comes, it will erupt, and the consequences are obvious, and the conflicts we're experiencing now. So that culture of believing that boys should always be boys, men are men, should just stop.
We need
for
to
that
do away with
cohesion.
that narrative.
We need to do away with that narrative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me come to you, Kevin. Now, you had mentioned this whole aspect about toxic masculinity. And, from a guy, and I want to hear from both of you guys, as a man, you have some sense of masculinity. But at what point does it now become toxic, even to you as a man?
Okay. Toxic masculinity is whereby a guy takes himself as, I'm the man. I can't allow myself to be weak. I can't allow myself to be vulnerable. But for instance, as Kenyans, we have many tribes, and we have this rite of passage, circumcision, and each and every tribe has its own way of doing it. Whatever we are being taught over there, whatever they are being taught over there, contributes greatly in our next life. This is the passage of childhood to adulthood. whatever you're being taught, whatever you're being told that this and this will be doing this and this in the society. If a lady does this, don't agree. If you're being done this, just keep quiet. Or be a leader. Be the man. Stand and don't allow yourself to be weak. Yeah.
Keith, your thoughts as well when it comes to toxic masculinity and when it now becomes toxic as opposed to just being a man, as we like to say, kuwa mwanaume.
So when it becomes toxic, you realize that you no longer feel the same about the same things that you're being told. For instance, let's talk about psychological abuse, like body shaming. Yes, you're a fat person, and then there is this lady, she tells you that, man, you look fat, or she tells you you're ugly. Actually, at first, for us men, we always ignore because we say, there are those phrases that people say, mwanaume ni kiatu, mwanaume ni sura mbaya, mwanaume ni effort. But you can understand that it's a joke, but at some point it becomes so serious that you say that I'm stuck with this. Everybody thinks I'm ugly. Everybody thinks I'm fat. So you end up that you try avoiding people because you just know somebody is bound to say this. Like, people make you insecure of how you look like. You can't change it. That's you. But people make you insecure of how you look like. So I think it becomes toxic when it's too much. So
all right.
The thing.
Just allow me to interrupt you, Kidogo. We'll be having a few issues with your mic here and there, but we'll be getting back to that particular point about toxic masculinity. But before you get to wind up what you were saying, let me come back to you, Jane. Yeah. Do you think this sense of toxic masculinity is what is making our gentlemen find talking about your emotions as a weakness?
Oh, yes. Like, there's a research that was done. It's known as Peace Research Institute Oslo. And they did research with a few countries, conflict-affected countries, and they realized men are the most victims. Like I said, there is a psychological torture as a form of gender-based violence. And so what happens is that it affects them directly. But then the women, the females now, are affected indirectly because of that torture and sometimes they develop depression and they pour it onto the women. Yeah.
All right.
So it is always good to show them, to accommodate them and tell them that there's somebody out there who cares. That, like I said before, there are these humanitarian organizations that tend to ignore, to leave out the boy child when it comes to gender-based violence programming, and they are left out. So these boys are saying, these men are saying. So in due course, like I said before, once it erupts, they'll pour all the anger onto the women.
And it might be in the negative way.
Yeah, it might be in a negative way.
Now, Keith, let me come to you. Let me come back to you. You in your thoughts in regards to toxic masculinity, and maybe from where you sit, how we can teach our young boys to just know where to draw the line about being masculine and when it now becomes toxic.
I think it's really nice if parents will really make their sons understand that it's actually okay to cry, it's actually okay to talk about it. Like, if you feel bad about something or somebody is really telling you that you don't look good here, you have this mistake, actually some things are God made, like you cannot rectify them. It's a part of you and you live with it. So it's good for parents to teach their sons, like, you have to accept this is a part of you and also you have to live with it. And if somebody is trying to shame you for what you are, then the problem is not you, the problem is that person. So if parents allow their sons to make their sons to understand that in every life that a person lives, there have to be a negative effect and there have to be a positive effect. And some of them are not your fault. You just grew up and you found them there. So understanding your emotions as a boy is something that should be put into you by your parents just from the word go. So our action as parents in the house should be an example to the boy child. Like, for instance, if I'm a father and I have a quarrel with my wife, I'll just put my wife down there and then we talk, and then my son will be there listening. So he'll understand that maybe this is the point where my dad is really looking like he's breaking down, but at least he's doing something to solve it. So he will grow up knowing that if I do this, if something like this happens to me, it's okay if I talk to someone, and then it will just go away, or this person will find a way to help me.
And maybe coming to you, Kevin, what of households where parents believe in having separate conversations with the children. When it comes to being a man, only the father is there to foster this young boy or to bring him up as a man, and for the girl, also the same by the mother. How then do we now bridge that gap and just make sure that boys know it's okay to feel how you feel in the presence of your sister or other females and know that it is normal?
Sometimes parents fail because when they're with their sons, the most topic they talk about is relationship.
Yeah.
If you have this lady, just propose your feelings to her. They never talk about how this world is. This world is harsh. Outside here, you'll have hiccups on the way. You'll have ups and downs. How will you be able to manage yourself in these situations? So as parents, we should be able to have just this meeting with our kids, have a sit down, address about life issues. If you have quarrels with someone, if you have an issue with someone, you better sit down, address it. If it can't work, then you can approach necessary or appropriate institutions.
Okay.
Or you go to police authorities, they'll help you if you can't address us with the two people.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to how we can address these issues, let me come back to you, Jane. And looking at the fact that you probe the boy child and also the young girls, what are some of those harsh consequences that you have found affect our young boys, especially stemming from gender-based violence?
Good question, Jane. Now, let me give a practical example. Like recently, that was last year, we had this M-Pesa Foundation coming to our school to motivate the kids, the class A students who were about to sit for the exams. And they were summoned by the head teacher, and they had one-on-one talks with these kids. And it was unfortunate that one of the representatives of the foundation, so they said, we've come here to motivate you, so that as you sit for your national exam, you'll be motivated and you know somebody out there cares. So what they did, they removed the panties for the girls and the pads, the sanitary towels for the girls. And our boys are watching. So I stood there as a teacher, and I was like, as a mentor, I wasn't impressed at all. I was hurt, it was painful, because the boys, okay, you talked about motivation. Here you are giving the parties and the pants to the girls. What about the boys? So does it mean that you're motivating this girl? I had to call my boys aside after the organization left. I had to tell them, I also care. I had to organize a certain group, and we got knickers for the boys, and we talked to them. So it's obvious, and there's so many other organizations. Like, for example, I work in an informal settlement. So many NGOs want to work with such pupils. And most of them, when we attend conferences and seminars, they actually tell me, Jane, you are the representative of the school, so I want you to form a girls' club.
Yes.
So it's about girls' club. I remember one time we went to Manzoni for a conference, and I challenged them, and I told them, fine, you're talking about girls. What about the boy out there? Do you think we are going to foster this cohesion? Remember, we don't have two worlds. We have boys and girls. They must coexist. So if we ignore one gender and we tend to lean on one gender, then we may not achieve our fight against gender-based violence in whatever way.
So how then do we now scale up efforts to prevent gender-based violence against our men, and for those who have actually gone through this, actually seek help? How do we scale up the efforts?
Sensitization, like the program Jane, She for He, and we are hoping that it's going to be taken to so many counties. We've started in Nairobi, and I believe in due course it's going to get to many other counties. And we want the humanitarian organizations to be including gender-based violence programs. They also be vigilant in mentoring the boys as well, because ours is to empower boys, to empower us, because once we empower that boy, he will empower a girl out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, your thoughts as well when it comes to scaling up the efforts about preventing gender-based violence against our men?
As Jenna said, I think it's the right time for counties, each and every county, to have just a place where people can come through, address their issues about how they're experiencing in their families. It's not only about those people with families, not only about our fathers, our mothers. Even in school. In school, you can experience stigma. Some ladies bully you there and there. It affects you mentally. Even in the studies, you can't perform. So it's the high time for authorities, for governments, each and every county, let's just have these institutions where people can come, have an interactive session, they can be taught, they can address their issues, and at the end of the day, it will help each and every one of us. It's not only ladies who experience gender-based violence. As men also, we have many cases. But since our percentages are low, as Kate said, not all have come out here. as much as we are 18%, ladies are almost 50%. Men fear coming out. So let's take that initiative of bringing ourselves out here and be healthy.
All right. Kate, your thoughts as well when it comes to scaling up effort and especially looking at clinical services being offered without bias?
Actually, I think there have been a lot of publication that speaks about this, and actually what we have to look at here is what is not being done. Actually, a lot has been done. We have been sensitizing people about this. We have been educating people about this. We have been talking to people, and even the willing survivors have been coming out to share their stories. But there are chances that somebody might report this case to the police, but some authorities are compliant. They don't follow into this so much. So we need a strategy that is going to enforce the rights of these particular people.
Okay.
And apart from that, we have to look at this from this angle. Gender-based violence is not about ignorance. Like, let's see what is there behind it. Like, for
The root
instance,
cause.
the background.
Okay.
What's the background of the abuser? What's the background of the person who's being abused? Who was in power? Like, you know, some people want to be dominant. Like, there's some of the signs you'll find them asking, like telling you, if I'm a husband or the wife is working and she's really well off, she'll be telling the husband, just stop working, I'll take care of you. Or they're telling them, you should ignore your friends, they're not good people, your family members. Those ones are some of the signs. So what we really need to look at from the background, like how was this person brought up? Is this person abusing drugs? So we have to take a closer look at the root cause of this, so that we have to cut it from the root, so that we wouldn't have to deal with this in the future.
Okay.
After cutting it from the roots.
Yes.
Can
Jane,
I
you want to add on to that?
I want to add on to that, yeah, Jane. Gender-based violence, many people believe it's, in fact, some take it as synonymous with violence against women. So that notion should stop. When you talk of gender-based, many people, actually many organizations think of women. So they are hardly giving attention to the boy child.
Yeah.
Somebody did some research in Darfur, and they talked to these men, and they wanted to know, because they were refugees who had run away because of war. And they gave their stories, and they asked a very crucial question. You are empowering girls so much. Nobody is giving us an ear or a shoulder to lean on and listen to us. So what happens, like I had said before, it piles. So they are affected directly by the GBVs, either they are maimed or killed, because, like, for example, the case in Lamu, what happened? When the militia gangs went to Lamu, they were mainly going for male child. I didn't see human rights activists all over the world, or in Kenya, wherever, coming to protest. Suppose it was the other gender, it would have been all over, and humanitarian organization coming to chip in. So I'm saying, let people not think that GBV is about women. It's about both male and females. So the strength that is given to the girl child, let it be direct to the boy child as well.
Okay.
If at all we have to achieve that cohesion and healthy coexisting, I'm insisting on that.
All right. Now, still in the same breath of scaling up efforts about, gender-based violence, to just bring them down, especially to our men, let's have a quick conversation about clinical services that are being offered, especially in remote areas where, they might not be as aware, what gender-based violence, how it presents itself. How do we now scale up these clinical services to cater for even our young boys in the many forms that gender-based violence presents itself?
Like I said, Jane, is about sensitization and many people chipping in. We have Shifohi, we have many other people that should be coming, and we get to get down there and reach our boys.
Okay.
Yeah, because many boys are not ready to open up, by the way. They are hiding, like you called it, silent crisis. They are not ready to open up because they are retreating, because they are seeing a lot of, like I said, a lot of preferences given to girl child. So they are retreating, and they are not ready to share. Supposing somebody comes and tell them, we are here for you, especially females, I think it will have more impact than a male doing it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let me come to you, Kevin. When it comes now addressing the needs of survivors of gender-based violence, in this, our men in this particular case, to just make sure that we break that cycle, in as much as we want to put in place preventative measures, how now do we cater to the needs of, those who have gone through this whole issue as a whole?
Okay. For the victims, the survivors of gender-based violence,
yes,
for them, like, we should have this place, a social home. As much as you can find in some homes, some of the partners have been chased away from home. They don't have where to go. They don't have where to have their lives. As much as they're being refused to come back home, we should have this place where they can harbor, they can go on shelter and have some time before they sort each and everything out.
Yes.
Also we should also have equality. Let's say, for example, if I'm married to an MP, and let's say I'm just a businessman, small scale, if I go and report, I'm the victim. If I go and report out there, I'm being violated, who will be favored? Of course, the MP. As much as I'm being violated, I won't get my rights because of the social figure, power.
Okay.
So power shall not judge everything. We shall be equal. We shall have this.
All right. Kate, your thoughts as well when it comes to just trying to break this cycle when it comes to giving the necessary protection and efforts direct towards survivors of gender-based violence?
I think the solution for me in this particular instance, I think that if the survivors can really be used to fight against this, like, sharing your story can really inspire a lot of people. And when a lot of people come out and they speak about it, their voice is heard, because that one is now massive. Their voice will be heard. And also, the fact that some authorities are compliant, I think there should be rights that are placed just in accordance to how these people should be treated. And also, it will be so awesome if in the medical section, if there could be a special training, not only to the doctors, but also to the survivors. They should be given a training like how they can talk to other people who are going through the same, so that they can be deployed in different parts, in different counties, so that they can be the ambassadors of these particular organizations, so that they can go, even if it's door to door, speaking to families and people who are going through this, to help them surface, so that they can speak about anything they are going through. I think that one will solve a lot.
Okay. All right. And in regards to this whole conversation, there's one Mulako who's saying a lot of men are abused verbally and emotionally. Some women need to learn and tame their tongues, which they can be brutal. So looking at, the way we just casually take these conversations and understanding the psychological impact of what we say it has on not just even our young men, our young boys, and even anyone who might be going through gender-based violence, to our viewers out there who might not really understand the consequences of their words, what would you like to say to them this morning?
Okay, first, Jane, I'd like to say gender-based violence has been taken to be, it is more into girls than into boys.
Yes.
And so girls take it like disrespect. To me, it's not about empowering them. They have been empowered to an extent of thinking now they can overrule everybody else. And so, that, like I said before, for healthy coexistence and that cohesion, then we must also bring the boys on board and tell them that somebody out there cares.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's one particular interesting tweet here by a lady called Martha. She's saying, I've never slapped or punched a man. I have imagined it though. However, I have said some super mean and abusive words to men. I did not know that this actually constitutes as a gender-based violence against men. Now, coming to you, Kevin, again, scaling up efforts about awareness, because many a times we might not be aware of how GBV against men presents itself, because again we always think it has to do with violence.
Okay. As Mr. Model Walwood, I and Keith, and we have a team, we've decided to advocate against gender-based violence. And during this period of Corona, we've been indoors, and the best way to channel education or to channel information out there is online. We have a lot of YouTube channels coming up, but you haven't had a YouTube channel addressing about what we face in the society. We just address about music, we address about flashy life, luxuries, but what about what we face in our families? Right now we are all indoors. At times you'll have quarrels. You don't have where to go. At least when everything is normal, in the morning you'll get up, go to work, brush it off, in the evening come, tired, sleep. But now, 24/7 you're in the house. You fight, your kids are over there, all over. They check what you do to them. And later on in the society, when they grow up, they know this is what is done. My father was beating up my mom because she had failed to do this. She had done this wrong. So as me, as let's say Kevin, if I get a girlfriend, if I get a wife, I should hit her up. Or the vice versa also works. Yeah.
Okay. Keith, your word of advice as well when it comes to just understanding and what we say cuts as much as, you know, how physical violence would.
Actually, I think most of the ladies, they wouldn't beat up men, but what they will do with their mouth actually is what hurts a lot. About 2 days ago, I had posted something on Instagram, and I was really asking, like, between a gay son and a lesbian daughter, who are being scrutinized most by the society? To my surprise, gay son was 100% even before 2 hours were over. So this is just a particular indication that words from people will really hurt men more than the violence. But when we say that we need men to speak up, talk about this, we don't mean that they should just say what they are going through or what they have been done to. I'm actually saying that men should also tell us the reasons. Why do they do this? Like, why do they subject other people to abuse? Or why would they do something that will really hurt someone? We would also love a situation whereby ladies will come out, like just that lady has come out and said she had subjected somebody to abuse without knowing. So what we have to do is, like, at an instant of that particular situation, like when it happens, me as a man, I just have to come out and say, you know, actually, you're telling me this, you're body shaming me, you're insulting me, you're telling me this, it's not okay. So we don't have to keep quiet and just be there okay with everything people tell us. It's okay to break down and scream it out and even talk about it.
It's
just
okay to let it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add to that?
Yes, Jane.
Jane. Okay, then we need to create a safe space. What I mean with a safe space is that we need to assure, a safe space is where the boy will be assured and they'll be sure that whatever they are going to share with us, we are going to address.
Okay.
Because that's where the problem is. You know, men, when a man cries, is dubbed not in the African culture, like you called it, that's not a man enough.
Yes.
So even men are experienced like that person who commented there about verbal abuse and other forms of abuse. We have men being maimed by their own wives, by girlfriends and others, but they are not ready to speak out because of fear of intimidation and being termed lesser men. So it becomes a bit difficult. And that is why I'm saying we create a safe space and we assure these men such that we have forums where they can share their grievances and we work together.
All right. There's one tweet here by Mr. Lee Talented who's saying, you get into an argument with a woman and she's 100% sure that you'd never hit back. She sadly uses that to her advantage and ultimately constitutes to gender-based violence against men. Again, from this conversation, we're just looking at how gender-based violence does present itself, and especially when it comes to our gentlemen. And according to some stats, just looking at the harsh consequences that arise as a result of gender-based violence against our men, you know, issues like depression, abandonment, suicide, and ultimately domestic violence have in one way or the other been linked to domestic violence against men. So it is about time we change the narrative and create these safe spaces, not only for our young girls, but also for our young boys and men to feel free to talk about how they feel, and especially when it comes to the emotional aspects, so that we don't bottle up things and it gets to a point where it turns to be an explosive situation, and we know when you get to that point, in most cases goes down the negative direction when it comes to how people handle that particular situation. So with that, we've come to the end of this particular conversation, but we welcome you to continue being part of Good Morning Kenya. You can talk to us via our social media platforms. Here in studio, I have been speaking with Jane Mugo, who is a teacher and a mentor. Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you.
To the other extreme side of studio, we have Kevin Kipto, who is the current Mr. Worldwide Kenya, as well as Keith Abonyo, who is the second runners-up in Mr. Worldwide Kenya. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us this morning and sharing with us your thoughts about this whole conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Looking
right.
forward to having many more.
Thank
you.
So we take a very quick breather. We'll be right back with more of Good Morning Kenya. The hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us.
welcome.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive.
Jeshi ya Nyeri Coast Maua na Kuru ko locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the ref.
Mbotela Outer Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxer pale go down. Karatina Outer Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lari Sub County Outer Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Outer Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi.
Fika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Outer Gilgil.
Live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive.
Embothika Massive.
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Kusia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the ref.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to Africa.
Channel 1.
May you be victorious. I believe you will leave me spellbound by your performance.
Certainly.
I know whom you're looking for. But Siamak is not here. But I'm sure that he will be here to witness his friends and brothers' victory for sure.
I had told you before, Queen Mother. Siamak would get his right only by snatching it. I don't know why you are not doing anything about it.
People gonna say all kind of things about you.
We them on. Just shake up. Need to mushia one, don't to mushia.
When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Trago y ella la botella. Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bopping.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, te pago, te pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge. It's time to do some political analysis of what has transpired in this country over the weekend, politically speaking. And to help us do that, I've got a political strategist and communicator, that is Advice Mudalo. Welcome to the program. And we've got a political commentator, Daniel Rogo. Gentlemen, karibuni sana to the program.
Thank
and
you.
I'd like to begin with you, Daniel. What do you make of Governor Mutua's presidential bid?
Well, thanks for inviting us to this. I'm happy to engage.
Yeah.
I watched, I think, the interview a while ago in this particular station, and I'm amazed. You know, I'm awed by the fact that Governor Mutua, his ambitions, he's really gone ahead to declare his bid. That is messed by mixed reactions, Samuel. One is, a while ago, the governor declared that it's too early to do politics. For any, I think it was one of his comments when he was commenting about the deputy president, having some political meetings. He said it was that too early. And I think my question is really what was up to him, because that to him also he's just declared his bid. But coming to his bid, Mutua first of all has a political right to declare that he is going to run, as a presidential candidate like any other politician. That is his political right. And secondly, I think looking at him as a second-term governor. It is within my submission that he's served, the people of Machakos for 2 terms, and has served the country as as a government spokesperson. And to him, he sees this as a good platform to move to hierarchy and serve as a presidential candidate. That is okay. But I think my own idea is that Governor Mutua can as well serve Kenyans in other capacities, because looking at him as a spokesperson, looking at him as a 2-term governor, I think he would still really serve Kenyans at a different capacity, should him not make it to the political, to the presidential candidate. But I'm amazed for his ambition, and I am agreeing that he's looked relatively young and ambitious, and can steer the country in any capacity as a leader in this country.
Other than the president, maybe?
Just
checking. Other than the president, maybe?
To be realistic, I think being a second term and, a day in politics is too, we say that
24 hours is a long time.
It's a long time in politics. There's yet other dynamics. And I'm telling you to watch that Governor Paranyama has as well declared, Governor Jomo has as well declared the political bid, and all other governors that have served as a second-term governor. So I think they're looking at their position in these upcoming elections, and where do they serve Kenyans as well.
Survival will be for the fittest. I'd like to hear what Advice has to say about this.
Okay, Sam, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the program.
You're welcome.
Now, about Governor Mutua, first of all, we have to agree that Governor Mutua has always amazed Kenyans by the levels of his ambition. Because when he came straight from being a government spokesperson and launched his campaign for governor in Machakos County, many people didn't think it would be as serious as it turned out. And when he won the governor's seat, many people were amazed. And again, he made the next dare move, where he launched his own political party, became a party leader, and went neck to neck against Kalonzo Musyoka. And he again amazed people when he won against Kalonzo Musyoka for the second term of his governance. And therefore, I think Mutua's ambition has always been generally above board, and most often he has been able to surprise us. And in my estimation, I think Mutua is a communication and PR guru. And so I think most of what is playing out here is mostly the PR side of Governor Mutua. Because strategically speaking, number one, launching a presidential campaign at this time is very beneficial to Mutua, because it makes him the only other person apart from William Ruto who has declared openly that he's running for president. So between now and the time others declare, we'll have a conversation between Ruto and Governor Mutua. So he gets publicity because others are not there. Because he knows that at the time when we'll be having a Raila candidature in full force, a Mudavadi candidature, a Kalonzo candidature, of course the media will kind of shy away from him. But when he comes out at this time, the media has no option, and that's why all media houses covered him yesterday, because there was no other story to actually cover. And so to me, it is strategic enough. And number two, it gives him time to get onto the bargaining table, because now he starts being considered by many people as now running mate and stuff, because now he has put himself at the bargaining table.
Umeongea sasa Advice, bargaining power ahead of 2022.
Ahead of 2022.
Let me hear from you, Rogo.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For one to be at the bargaining table, like advice has intimated, it could be, there's a number of factors that come to play. And you see, you're not going to bargaining table with an empty hand.
Yeah.
One of the things that I keep on advising that any political heavyweight, like he appears right now, must make sure that there is a strong consolidation of votes within this area. And we are jostling about, the areas Ukambani. And one of the things that also Governor Mutua, apart from, strategically placing himself to begin to bargain, one of the things he would actually want to do is to wrestle that political following against Kalonzo Musyoka and have it. We've had the three governors in Ukambani, and I think Governor Mutua, Kifuta Kibwana, and Charity Ngilu, trying to, to wrestle that political base out of the reach and out of, the grasp of Kalonzo Musyoka. So I think one of the things that, apart from, launching his bid to begin negotiation, another thing that you'll probably be doing is running ahead of his two colleagues and making sure that if any discussion about Ukambani comes to being, then he, plus being a presidential candidate coming from that area, he's able now to go and say, apart from me being the governor and being a presidential candidate, I am coming into this table with these people, consolidated votes. The second thing that we also be looking at is about the timing. We are seeing drumbeats about the referendum.
Yeah.
And there is a need for a referendum coming. Who is, hosting who is the face of BBI in Ukambani? So I think these are the issues that the governor would, and I like the fact that you've said, it might not be like he's going to Ghana and be the president of Kenya. But again, where does that leave him right now? It leaves him as Ukambani Kingpin 1. It leaves him to have a negotiating table, and it leaves him to begin to consolidate the votes in the Ukambani region and run ahead of Kalonzo, run ahead of other two governors in the Ukambani region.
But then, gentlemen, when you look at the Ukambani region, is it slowly warming up to the fate of Western Kenya, where there could be a voting bloc, but it's divided because one voice is lacking? It is the same place that we have Kivuta Kibwana, who is also, said to be eyeing the presidential seat. There is Kalonzo Musyoka still within the same base. Is it a political risk right now? Advice?
In my view, right now, it is quite too early for us to imagine that Mutua can be able to outfox Kalonzo in the numbers of Ukambani. Kalonzo still remains ahead in terms of being the political kingpin of Ukambani. But what Mutua does is that he reduces his numbers. And he does that by a very large margin. Remember, Kalonzo does not run his politics more on numbers. He runs it more on perception. He anchors his politics on perception. And what he does is he creates an image of a person who is above board, not necessarily because it's true, but because it looks like it is true. Like right now, when you look at, if you had a chance to look at what the launch yesterday, it actually looked for someone in Western, in Marsabit, wherever. Someone would look at it and feel, I think this is the new hope of the country.
Yeah.
And therefore, remember also, he is the chairman of the economic bloc in Eastern.
In Eastern.
And so, by some fact and by some legitimacy, he holds a position more or less almost equal to Kalonzo. Remember, Kalonzo, as per now, doesn't hold any substantive, legitimate office where he can control the Ukambani people from. But Mutua has the office of governor and he has the office of the chairman of the economic bloc. So he has these two places and he also has a big office, which makes these guys look like it is very difficult to take the power of Machakos away from the power of Ukambani away from Machakos, also because of the perception of just the office of the governor and stuff. So I think Kalonzo, Governor Mutua, is running actually more a perception campaign and not necessarily a reality campaign. And it has worked for him in the past, and it might just work for him again. Remember, governors are going to be especially second-term governors, are going to be the most lonely politicians we are going to have after 2022.
But then now, where do they go?
After all is said and done,
Remember, they're almost 30 something.
Yeah,
yes, quite a number.
What really, and this is my thinking, that if you see the change of the dramatic call for the amendment of the Constitution, I think this is, and if you've really looked at it very keenly, the people who are behind right now the negotiation for BBI will be the second-term governors.
Yes.
Because one, they are looking at their position now. Where do we take them? The only thing, the only savior, and the only chip that right now remains is that should we amend the Constitution, either to make sure that there is other terms, or to find an office where we place the second-term governors. But like you said, we ideally, Samuel.
Yes.
You are mentioning that I would be, it would be very a privilege for the second-term governors to look at other positions. We are having advisory within that are required within the boards. We are having, the people who can serve equally as church elders, the people who can serve as, the cattle dip chairman. People who can, there are so many positions that, we can have the governors advising.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that reduces your legitimacy and your capacity, ideally. But politically, I think as we move to have a concrete discussion about the constitutional discourse, the ones that will lead this campaign, I am foreseeing a situation where there will be second-term governance. So, for me, it could be a very interesting terrain as we move to know where or other times they would launch their political parties. This was another chip. And not because they are going for those positions, it's simply because that they would have a platform, a legitimate platform that they would bargain for their interest in the upcoming, election and for the future.
Advice.
I think,
where do they go?
I think I more or less agree with Dorogo, especially at church elders level. But then, in my view, I also think we messed up in the constitution in the first place when we created 47 counties. 47 counties is actually, they were just too many. When you look at even the US, they have 50, I think 52 states.
Yeah.
And when you look at their landmass versus Kenya, it is a world of a difference. So I think in the first place, that's where we messed up. And I know it's a difficult, it's a political hot potato, but then if counties would just be reduced, because we are going to run into the risk of having billionaires after every 10 years who are politically strong but are not in any office. Now, it is very dangerous to have a politician who has a lot of money and they are not in office, because mostly what they do is just to disrupt the system. Now, if we have 47 people all over the country who have the mantle, who have the capacity to disrupt the system, then we are going to create a lot of chaos in time to come. And that's why, in my view, there needs to be a conversation about reducing the number of counties, but then also in terms of the second-term governors and where they are supposed to go. Remember, Sam, this country does not owe anyone any position. And so the country should not be very worried about where the second-term governors are supposed to go. If anything, they are supposed to retire and just go home so that we have other people taking up leadership positions. We can't be in the business of protecting human beings who have already served, who have already been in service. We must be in the business of...
And what now political pundits argue that it could be full of ambiguities and retrogression. We'll be back in a moment.
Matthew 25:34. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, "Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink."
Kupata Matthew 25:34. Bonyeza star 811 star 961 hash.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I will sleep when I'm dead.
Don't you dare tell me how to heal my daughter, Wanjala.
So all this while you never loved any of us? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
And why are you so bothered anyway? Isn't your rich Ugandan tycoon enough for you?
I loved all of you. Tulia.
Jimmy. Nataka ule Jimmy alikuwa ananipush hard, unaona?
Lazima usikize akili yako na mwili wako.
Hakuna tumbaya na akili yangu na mwili yangu. I need you to push me.
Jimmy, hebu kuja hapa haraka saa hizi ama nikuue.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You send that email. Don't tell me that you didn't do it.
No. Ramon, this is Sophia. I have 1,000 things to say, but the most important one is I love you. I have always loved you, and I always will. If I told you that you weren't important to me, it was just to protect you, but now nothing can keep us apart anymore, Ramon. I'm looking for you so we can love each other forever. Please come here. I will be at the building of Daybreak Radio for the next 3 days, every afternoon at 5 o'clock. Please come, Ramon. I really need you.
In love with Ramon.
At 10 minutes past the hour, thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Kenya this Monday. My name is Samuel Njoroge. We are having a political conversation here around some of the political activities over the weekend with advisor Mundalo and Daniel Orogo. But I would like to bring in Hamisi Mboga joining us live from Mombasa. Hamisi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of Governor Mutua's presidential bid?
Good morning to you, Njoroge. How are you? Thank you. I'm told Nairobi is very cold.
Hello, Hamisi. Good morning. You can hear me? Okay, we seem to be having a bit of... you can hear me, Hamisi?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe you can start by sharing your thoughts around the presidential bid by Governor Mutua.
Thank you for asking me to make some comments on this particular issue. As a Kenyan, Governor Mutua has a right to bid for the presidency of Kenya in 2022. 2022 is almost 2 years away, and many things can happen in politics. A week is just as big as a year. So I hope if things don't change, then he's a candidate. But some people ask a number of questions. That Governor Mutua is still a governor until 2022. People are still watching his performance in terms of providing the services that he sought to provide. If I were him, I would either say I'm standing or do something in Machakos until people say he's ready to be the president of Kenya. If he talks about poverty, how about Ukambani? If he talks about energy, water, all those services that they're supposed to do, he should do a good example so that everybody envies, say, I want to be like Governor Mutua, so that his platform becomes good. Because right now he has a right, he has done something. We want something on the ground, on those issues that he talked about, especially this morning. Issues of poverty, issues of employment, issues of addressing some of the issues touching on women and gender, issues about the law. He has been in the government for all this time. If the laws are okay, have they been implemented? If they have not, what has he done about it? He was in the Kibaki government. We know what his contribution was. He should now expand and show us a kind of an example in Machakos.
Yeah.
Then he doesn't have to campaign.
But is he doing it a little bit too early, Hamisi?
It's too early. In politics, 2 years is a long time, and we all of us, some of us have the opinion that all the candidates should have a right to do, but it's a bit too early because there are things that the governor said he will do in Machakos. There are the things that the national government has said they want to do for Kenya. We are watching those tapes so that when the time comes, then the choice will be ours. In fact, he may not even need to come to the TV. He'll be voted by the people because of the actions they've done.
All right. And now, of course, my attention now is drawn to what the dailies have been reporting this morning. It's all about a BBI and the fact that reggae is back. And for example, to take from the Standard, it says, after months of subdued political activity due to coronavirus, leaders across the spectrum returned to the front line with public rallies and private meetings ahead of the BBI and a possible referendum. I'd like to come to you, advice on this particular issue. Is BBI the solution Kenya is looking for?
I would like to make a comment and say yes and no. Yes, because there are issues in the constitution that we feel they must be looked at and revisited. No, because where is the report? Let's get the report and look at it and compare to those things that people who are opposing it earlier in the new constitution, and then the experience that we have had now, 5 years plus 2 years, 7 years. Then we shall compare. Are we addressing those issues? If not, is there a gap in the law, or we have all the laws that we require, but the problem is implementation? So we need to look at the report. In fact, I'm so anxious to be able to look at the report that when we contributed, when they went around, we contributed. We want to see what has been captured by the report, and the most important thing, the suggestions that are to be followed and the processes. Then we'll be able to say, yes, the BBI has come and is addressing those issues. Okay. But outright, I think BBI is good because it was touching, if you look at the 9 points, they're touching on so many issues that affect this country. And I think the most important thing that BBI can give us is we have a peaceful elections, we have results that are acceptable, we have concurrency in terms of yes, these are the people that we voted in and they're in, so that we don't see any immediate confrontation after the results. The process of counting the votes, the process of election preparedness, and also election preparation by the institution that are supposed to, so that it's so clear from day one that nomination is done, IBC is okay, and now we're going for elections. Parties have a problem also. Have they solved this kind of party problems in terms of nomination? Who is supposed to come in? And the number, we are going back to the number of the places that will be representing people.
Yeah.
Are we okay with the number of MCAs? Are we okay with the number of parliamentarians? Are we okay with the Senate? So this will come out when we read the BBI, but I think there are issues that we must visit.
Okay. Thank you so much for that advice. Let me come to you. Is BBI the solution that Kenya needs?
Taken through exactly what is in the BBI, especially after the second round of recommendations and submissions by different leaders and different communities. But if we can be able to go by what has been put out in terms of just the umbrella version of the BBI, we have seen it propose issues of inclusivity, issues of ensuring that there is no election violence after every 5 years, which I think are ideals that are good for the country. And we have also seen the conversation around an expanded executive, which in my view, I think is actually the main focus of the BBI. The main focus of the BBI, to me, I want to feel, is the expanded executive, where we want to create the positions of Prime Minister and other positions, which in my view is the right political solution for this country. It might not be popular, but politically, it is the right solution because when nations are young, they are built by individuals. It's until nations achieve a certain pedigree of age, that is when nations build individuals. At this state in time in Kenya, our nation is still young, and therefore it will only be built
50
by...
50 plus years, we can still call that young?
Yes, we could call it young because when you compare it to the other nations in the world, because when we talk about want to be like developed countries like the US, those are countries that are extremely very old. And at the same age of Kenya today, the US was still having tribal clashes. So we are not necessarily as bad as we are sometimes also made to look. But I want to believe that when this country, at this point, it will still be built by individuals. And that is why we are still fighting over individuals even more than we are fighting over tribes and ideals. Because when people went to the streets in 2007, it was mostly because of Raila Odinga. We are seeing people behind William Ruto, people behind Uhuru Kenyatta, people behind Kalonzo Musyoka, not necessarily the ideals of these people. That necessarily shows you that, politically speaking, we have people who are slightly ahead of us as a country. And therefore, these people must be put into the spectrum of discussion for them to lead the country to the next level. Every time we try and avoid it, we develop a conversation that is popular, a conversation that looks reasonable, but we keep plunging ourselves in the menace of electoral violence and every after 5 years. It is until we put these people into perspective that is when we'll cross this bridge.
Well, let me hear the thoughts of Daniel on this.
Well, every time a discussion about BBI comes to fore, there are questions that I always ask myself. One is the BBI document is anchored on the 12-point agenda that forms the basis of gentleman's agreement between Uhuru and Raila, the Honorable Prime Minister and the President of the Republic of Kenya. It is within the public domain that these document have really not, apart from the 12-point agenda, nobody knows the contents of the documents, and that's for a fact, I'll say there. Now, Samuel, my submission always is to ask if all the matters that are included in the 12-point agenda are there at the documents that previously has not really highlighted these matters, looking at matters of electoral reforms, matters of inclusivity, security, and all devolution, matters that are put within the 12-point agenda. One is that we have not audited our constitution well, and the fact that the BBI has come with suggestion, I think it's a question of duplicity. We have not really tried to merge, what is within other previous documents. Well, let's say that this will find its way to a referendum. And the thorny issue here to discuss is the country ready for a referendum? Do we have institutions that can steer a referendum that is well accountable and well desired of the people? And previous day we are talking about the readiness, the capacity of the IEBC as an institution that as a constitutional and independent commission that would run matters of elections and even referendum. The absence of a referendum bill, how then would we even carry out a referendum without a referendum bill? We are struggling with other elections amendment bills here and there. So for me, as citizens, we are still reeling from the adverse effects of the coronavirus. We have a country that is still on turmoil, and there's shackles everywhere. And it would be very of interest to me as a citizen, as a young person, that would we first of all look into the issues of healing the economy? Would we engage into matters of reviving back our economy back and healing a country to be ready for political shifts? So as we speak about the issues of BBI, again, we have reports that are lying within the shelves. Kriegler reports, Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission reports. It would be of interest to me that how then would we compare? How would we begin to audit those reports vis-a-vis the proposals of BBI? Lastly, the Constitution provides an avenue for amendment of itself. And as a document, I would not be really be seated, I'd be very dishonest seated here and saying that there is no need to amend the constitution. I think for me, constitution has lived the 10 years and it's open to amendment. The question is, what are we amending? What are we amending that is tailor-made for the interest of the Kenyans?
Right. Let me go to Hamisi. And when you look at the BBI and the intention therein, and when you compare it to a document, for example, the socio-economic audit on the same document that was done in the year 2016, what issues should be of privilege? What issues should be of priority when it comes to guiding the country, or guiding the country whether or not to have a referendum?
Thank you. I think one of the issues, and I've been talking about this one for some time, is the structure of the government in Kenya, or call it the governance structure. When you look at developed democracies, opposition, the heads, the leadership of the opposition is in parliament, and that forms a basis of a strong opposition and discussion. For example, if Honorable Raila Odinga was in parliament, if Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was in parliament, Honorable Mudavadi was in parliament, just to give an example, how hot would that debate, how hot would that mechanism in terms of oversighting the implementation of the issues? So if I was asked, one of the things we look at the structure so that we include even those who are opposing us, but they are leaders and also they have opposition, they have a stake. If you look at the number of population that Honorable Odinga was voted for, those are people that must be represented fully. Apart from the party, the leadership in parliament, that is my focus, would really improve. The debate would be improved. The caucusing, when there is an issue in parliament, would improve. But if they're outside all the time, is the members of parliament for that party, they go out, say, in parliament, we're saying this. They should be inside the parliament so that they can be able to debate. And this would give them the fact that you have lost the presidency. It doesn't mean that you have lost the leadership in shaping this country. That is one of the areas. The other area is the institutions that organize the process up to the elections. All of them should be relooked at in terms of, we know what has gone wrong with the IBC. So what can we change? The board itself, the number, if they have the capacity to be able to conduct a fair and good elections, all these should be also looked. So the governance structure, the institutions that conduct elections, and the institutions that implement the results of the elections are so crucial. If you look at the relationship between national government and the county government, until lately, the relationship was not that good. But I'm happy now, at least every other time you see the Council of Governors and the leadership is talking to the national leadership. For the last 7 years, this was not a situation. So how can we make it stronger in terms of those issues? Issues of financing is so crucial. If you look at all the functions that have been devolved, the contribution from the national coffers is not enough to enable those counties to implement. The issues of corruption, even if you get small amount of money, how prudent?
All right, thank you so much for that.
In terms of implementing whatever you have with that little money.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Hamisi. Advice coming to you. There's a crucial piece of legislation. It's still in Parliament, but it's supposed to guide the country when it comes to this referendum process, if at all it will be there, and that is the referendum bill. What are some of the mistakes we cannot afford to make when we're crafting this all too important piece of legislation? Advice.
Yeah, first of all, the referendum, just as Dan put it, it's time actually that we have a look at our constitution 10 years later. And of course, many Kenyans are asking themselves, okay, as we do that, what exactly are we looking at? But then it is important that when we have the referendum and as we try to structure the referendum bill, we are also able to look at it progressively in terms of let us just not be making laws for the sake of the time that we live in.
Yeah.
Because most often what happens in this country is we create legislation that is convenient for that time. You remember at some point, our former majority leader, Aden Duale, went to parliament and was able to change the nature of elections in universities with a keen focus on Babu Owino, not knowing Babu Owino will be member of parliament and the people who the law will affect will be people who are now university students. So most often we have always created legislation for convenience as per the time, which is what we do wrong. So as we look at the referendum bill today, let us look at it in terms of is this something that we want? Let us create it with longevity, that it will be able to serve us 20, 30, 40, 50 years from today. Because Sam, what happens in this country, you'll realize that we always want to change the law after the second term of a president. After one person is done leading, we want to change the rules of the game so that we can be able to incorporate someone else. So after every, is this then something we'll be doing after every 10 years? Yes, I agree that the Constitution is a living document. But does it therefore, does its life only last 10 years? So it is something that we have to look at and look at. If it's a referendum, I would propose that let us look at a fixed time limit. Let's say we will relook our constitution after every 20, after every 30, after every 50 years, but not after every time that we feel that it's convenient for us to relook at the constitution. Because today, Sam, many say that those for BBI want an expanded executive and create positions for themselves. But my question is, but those against the BBI, do they also want to retain a position for themselves? It is basically a question of positions whichever end. So as the parliament looks at that law, may they be able to look at it with longevity in a manner that the law will serve the generation and the generations to come. Not a law that is convenient to serve us at this time, and then next, we don't know. You look at the revenue bill as well. We want to create a situation whereby it is convenient and say, let us use this for 3 years and then change it after 5 years. We are always looking at convenience. We are always looking at what is popular and not necessarily what is right. And that is our problem.
All right, Dan.
Well, I think looking back, the reason as to why Punguza Mizigo initiative or Punguza Mizigo bill, was dropped like a hot potato by that time, is you realize that there was an issue about if that was to proceed to a referendum, there was no referendum bill.
Yes.
And it was very clear that the political class who saw it as an outside idea by that time used that clause to frustrate the bill, to proceed through a referendum. So right now, we are talking about BBI, that political class, Nimsalaba for some of these people, and it has to go through, minus a referendum bill. So in other terms, the question you're asking, Samuel, is if we are having this as a discussion within the national, and I saw yesterday Justin Muturi, urging the members of parliament to expedite that kind of bill because of the timing. Now, it becomes a preference choice because it has to be pushed within the National Assembly so that this referendum should go on. But the question is, again, what you've just talked about. Are we having this kind of a bill with somebody in the mind, with certain politicians in the mind? And then that would then disabuse the issue of, the structural adjustment within the bill and their sustainability. So I think it's not only the bill that is within, there are 3 elections bills that are within the National Assembly now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that JLA could actually do right now is to engage the public as possible. Public participation during the discussion of this bill has been questionable.
Yeah.
And this is why you've seen certain bills are not really reflecting the opinion of the public.
Yeah.
Where does that land the country to? It lands the country to, to acts that are only not palatable within the citizenry, but are generally allowed within the political class. So as we push through, as these discussions are finding their ways within the committee, it will be quite interesting because then this involves the citizen, involves the stakeholders, involves the institutions. The discussions about IEBC has been very stormy in this country. Yeah. And I would foresee a situation where this should be devoid of political interest. Because one thing that we've done always is the reflection of IPPG in the formation and in the, the composition of these commissioners. So I think we would, this time round, all the political players would be involved through a very rigorous process of public participation.
Hamisi, coming to you, what do you make of public participation? It's an issue that Dan has raised. I'm very sure you've heard. What do you make of it moving forward?
Things that was emphasized by the constitution that we want to change was participation at all levels, and this one has my view is this one has not been taken fully. There is little participation at the county level in terms of issues that need to be shared with the citizenry. There is little participation at the national level in terms of including all the stakeholders that would add to some of these discussions. And also, in fact, in some areas, the participation is a notice in the market that there is this issue. The structure, if you look at the Local Government Act, has a structure for citizen participation at the county level and even lower. Now we need to revisit this issue of participation. And I have at least I'm happy this BBI was taken around. For those who had an opportunity, at least there was some participation. But the report also must be given an opportunity, that people must be given an opportunity also to look at that report, to make it finer, to add value, so that by the time we get the document put in legal language, laws and constitutional issues, then we have participated. And when you participate, then you are part and parcel of that system. For example, those who are saying we don't need a referendum now because it's planned for some, like what my colleagues said, they also want to stick to this one because they see us taking this one, which they can be able to present their views. Then we are all doing the same thing. So why don't we go to the report and referendum with an open mind, with a structured way, address those issues that have been raised by politicians, those that have been raised by technical people like us, and then come out with a law that captures. And if we get that right, if we get the BBI report right, then Kenya will move very, very fast.
Okay, it's interesting.
That's my view. And the other thing is the political goodwill. We always forget there is a political goodwill and a move in everything. If you don't get that political goodwill and backing, some of the things will not go the way that were meant by the framers of the Constitution and also the framers of this BBI report. But that is okay because there's interpretation and also there are levels. We make suggestions, the lawmakers look at it, make laws, but they have their input because they have interest in there. So when you come out with an issue that will hit them more, they will of course they will refuse it because everybody is eyeing 2022. If those of us who are outside, if we hear the people saying "Tutawatoa hawa wote," that's a blunt statement, but it's a very strong one. If you tell the members of parliament "Tunawatoa wote," then they'll make a way of saying "Nabaki sote." This language is not very good for the public.
Well, critical issues that we should be thinking about, for example, when you reflect on the period between 2008 to 2013, when we had an expanded executive, did that particular period heal and unite Kenyans moving forward? You ponder on that, because we'd like to wind up the show. Time has come for us to wrap up. Daniel Orogo, thank you so much for coming. Advisor Mundalo, thank you so much for coming. And Hamisi Mboga, thank you for your contribution. And thank you for watching Good Morning Kenya this Monday. It has been a pleasure kickstarting your morning. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Enjoy the rest of your day.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa, and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
People gonna say all kind of things about you.
With them on, just shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Let's go.
Ha, I needed some with some bop in it. Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Get the pago, get the party more, get the pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya katoto.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
May you be victorious. I believe you will leave me spellbound by your performance.
Certainly.
I know whom you're looking for, but Siamak is not here. But I am sure that he will be here to witness his friends and brothers' victory for sure.
I had told you before, Queen Mother. Siamak would get his right only by snatching it. I don't know why you are not doing anything about it.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I will sleep when I'm dead.
Don't you dare tell me how to heal my daughter, Wanjala.
So all this while you never loved any of us?
Is that what you're trying to tell us? And why are you so bothered anyway? Isn't your rich Ugandan tycoon enough for you?
I loved all of you. Tulia.
Jimmy. Nataka ule Jimmy alikuwa ananipush hard, unaona?
Lazima usikize akili yako na mwili wako.
Hakuna tumbaya na akili yangu na mwili yangu. I need you to push me.
Jimmy, hebu kuja hapa haraka saizi ama nikuue.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You send that email. Don't tell me that you didn't do it.
No. Ramon, this is Sophia. I have 1,000 things to say, but the most important one is I love you. I have always loved you, and I always will. If I told you that you weren't important to me, it was just to protect you, but now nothing can keep us apart anymore, Ramon. I'm looking for you so we can love each other forever. Please come here. I will be at the building of Daybreak Radio for the next 3 days, every afternoon at 5 o'clock. Please come, Ramon. I really need you.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Raya, hii ni kwa matiche wote. Please, do not confuse the government. Usianza kufinya ile kitu inasema more fire. Ama ile ya the roof is on fire. Ama unaanza kusema we are killing this party. Ama the party is just a bomb. We are having a
Kupata Karau na DJ, bonyeza star 811 star 816 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 816 hash.
This social holds that nurtured many sporting talents in Kenya's golden years to produce some of the most feared boxers in Africa and the Commonwealth countries as well, who could punch like this, duck like that, and jab like this. Steve Mushoki was one of the most accomplished and famous boxers in Kenya from the 70s whom despite his small frame, advanced age, still possesses the ability that saw him become the only Kenyan boxer to win a world title besides other outstanding achievements.
Hakika mimi nilizaliwa hapa Mudhurwa 1954 na nilisomea hapo St. Peter's Clavers, na kutoka St. Peter's Clavers nikaenda City High School, kutoka high school nikaenda Highway, na kutoka hapo Highway nikaenda Aga Khan for A level, nikatoka hapo nikaandikwa na Kenya Breweries, na boxing yangu nilianza hapo Mudhurwa mwaka wa 97 na 67.
At 13 years of age, he already had the qualities that saw him start his journey to stardom.
Nilianza kucheza mchezo wa Junior Championship hapo 1990. Nikashinda tena 1969. Hapo sasa, hapo ndio nilijua kabisa nitaweza cheza mchezo hata wa nje ama kuwakilisha Kenya katika michezo ya nje. 73 hapo nilianza kuwakilisha Kenya katika intercities ambapo palikuwa na